New graphics, I like them.
Welcome to the Age of Stories. I'm Frozen Fallout, your host, and today we will be talking with Joebane, one of the most badass PvPers in all of LowSec and Eve Online. He goes around and rips things up. Hey Joe, how's it going?
Man, it's going great. Thanks for having me back on. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome, yeah, it's great to have you back. This is our slightly newer podcast that we just kind of came out with, where we're trying to get the stories of the people of the 21st century. And so you are definitely one of the people that have a lot of stories for us here in the 21st century, and making a lot of them on the game Eve Online. So tell us a little bit. So we've had you on our other podcast, Crossing Darkness, but just kind of to start off and get to know Joe a little bit. Tell us a little bit about how you got Joebane to really get going.
Oh, yeah, I can tell you how Joebane started. So when I started gaming back in the 80s, because I'm old, on bulletin boards primarily is where we were doing it at. I had the name Bane, B-A-N-E. That's what I was kind of going around using. And it worked really well for me, but when I started getting into other things, like MMOs, somebody always took the name, right? And so instead I tried Superfly, and somebody was always taking the Superfly name. Hi, sweetie, give me a hug. I'm doing an interview right now, okay? Tell them hi.
Hello.
Are you having some fun today?
Yes.
Go play. Yeah, so I did Super Dot Fly in a game called Subspace. Subspace, I think it's called Continuum now. Yeah, that game is actually still around, shockingly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was one of the first massively multiplayer online games where even back in 1996 and 97, you could have hundreds and hundreds of people all in one place fighting each other.
Oh, really? Time. Why did I not know about this? Subspace, huh?
Yeah.
Astarothi, thank you for the follow, and he says he loved Subspace.
Yeah, Subspace is a great game. I played Subspace I have probably got close to 20,000 hours in that game altogether. And it's an interesting game because it's a space shooter game, and it's 100% skill-based. There's no luck involved. So you just get better the more that you play, and you just keep getting better and better and better. So the more time you put into it, the more powerful of a player you are, without it having anything to do with a character or levels or anything like that. So very cool game. But in that game, my brother had the name Joebane, and I liked the name. And so, I keep telling him, I really want that name. I really want that name. And he said, that's okay, I got a better one, so you can have this one. Yeah, so he went off with his better name, and I was left with the turd, Joebane. And I've used that ever since. I've been Joebane since 1996.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Strength and Gaming, how's it going? Yeah, so it was a 2D space combat with bullets bouncing off walls and maintain physics of initial trajectory. Oh, okay, interesting.
You can actually go into that game, and you can see on the map it has all the history of the league, and you can see back in the early days of the league where I was in the league and winning, and won a couple of championships. It was so cool. It was such a fun time. Unfortunately, there isn't really an equivalent thing these days, but Eve is close.
Yeah. Eve is something that brings a lot of different elements of a lot of different MMORPGs together. My closest that I had to before Eve was Ultima Online. Not sure if you played any of that or heard about Ultima at all.
Oh, I heard about it, absolutely. But I didn't play Ultima Online because I was playing something else at the time. I think that Ultima Online and Star Wars Galaxies came out right about the same time.
Yep.
Is that what it was?
Well,
or maybe I was playing Asheron's Cult 2.
Yeah, Ultima was definitely way before Star Wars Galaxies. Like, it was, I think they came out with a pretty big update, or a 3D update-ish kind of around that time.
Oh, Ultima Online came out in 97. So it was UO came out and EverQuest came out. And I played Subspace, skipped UO, and then went to Asheron's Call. Yeah, I remember that now. 1997, I didn't want to play anything but Subspace.
According to Astarothi, Ultima Online was the game that coined the term MMORPG. And I think I remember when that was starting. So tell us... Are
you sure about that? I only asked because I think that Dark Sun came out back in the early 90s, and I thought that they used... Oh, they may have just been using the term MMO.
MMO, yeah, that makes sense. MMO was pretty strong out there, and then all of a sudden somebody, and it feels like it was Ultima that was like, well, we're an RPG though.
Yeah. Nice, man. Yeah, Asheron's Call was an innovative MMO, especially Asheron's Call 2 with the system they had of... They had this system, it was so cool, where you could have vassals that were under you. And so the more people you started getting under you, the more you could go from being like a baron to a lord to a prince, depending on how many people you had under you. And you got XP from all those people under you. You got a percentage of their XP. Yeah, so
it's like a Ponzi scheme.
300. Yeah, it is a Ponzi scheme. You get like 300 people under you, and you're just getting this feed up XP that's just coming in all the time. It was amazing. It was a really cool system.
See here, Astarothi saying MMORPG is the term coined by Richard.
Oh, I don't know what that name is.
Yeah, to refer to the massive online RPG role-playing games and social communities. So who's Richard? I guess he's and also Style Star says that Joebane, you're an amazing guy. So
people. I'm an amazing guy. Thank you.
But yeah, so tell us, how did you get involved in Eve Online, and specifically, what have you been kind of up to in Eve Online?
Get involved in Eve, probably like everybody else. I had friends that played Eve. I always loved space games, Subspace, whatever that other thing was. Yeah, I played 3 or 4 space games, so Eve Online was kind of like a natural thing. But when I got into Eve, I kept trying it back then on the free trial. And every time I would go in to play Eve, I hated the UI, man. Like the user experience. I thought it was bad. So I would play a little while, and then I would quit and play a little while and quit and play a little while and quit. And then I got started doing faction warfare stuff with some friends. We joined the Caldari militia, not knowing anything about any of it. We just all joined up with the Caldari militia and started going and living over around Usi, which is next to Ishamilkan, which at the time was where the Black Rebel Rifters Club was headquartered. You know, they were staying over in Ishamilkan at the time. So basically, we were just flying out of Usi because we were afraid to live in Losec, and jumping over into the Black Rebel Rifter Club and feeding those guys ships. So we just did that for a while. And while we were doing it, we were watching Judge Sarn on Twitch. You know, Judge Sarn. I think he's even streaming right now. And watching that guy, and this is an old dude just like me, just a regular guy. And he just goes out there and gets drunk and shoots at everything he can. It's like, I could do that. Really, I could do that. I could do that same thing, and I would have a lot of fun. And so I started doing that. I bought 50 Kestrels. We got to talk about the Kestrel because a mistake was made. Bought 50 Kestrels, stuck them in Uzi, my little system over there. And all was good. And my plan was to just go rapid fire Kestrels off into Losec, go to Tama, whatever, and mix it up. But there was a problem. I undocked my first Kestrel and realized I didn't buy any ammunition. And I spent all my ISK on Kestrels. Every bit of it, all of it. I had nothing left. I couldn't even insure them. And so then I get into this situation where I'm over there doing missions so I can earn LP so that I can convert rockets into Navy rockets so that I can then haul my Navy rockets all the way from where I was at over by Jita to Usi and load them into every Kestrel and then go out and fly. So, you know, play on the weekend, get as many rockets as I could, take them over there to Usi, load them up, go out and fly. I mean, what a noob, right? What a noob. You know, I'm doing all this stuff, you know, and kind of talking to Judge Sarn here and there and bitching at him about how Eve sucks and it's a terrible game and I don't know how you could even fucking play it and stuff like that, you know, typical me. And he was like, man, why don't you just spend $15 or $20 and buy you some ISK, get what you need, and then have more than 1 billion ISK left over. Like for $15, I could go PvP for a long time.
That's a lot of Kestrels.
4 million, 5 million Kestrels. That's probably all of them I'll ever need. And so I did that. And to this day, I still have some of the original 50 Kestrels floating around. They're out there. They're around. They're not in Ishamilk or Usi anymore. They've been moved and moved and moved and moved and moved. You know how you do as you go over the course of the years, things get shifted around.
Right.
And so that's kind of how I got started. And I got out there and I realized pretty quickly, every time I was losing a fight, it was my fault that I was losing the fight. I did something wrong, or I made a bad decision or string of decisions somewhere along the way. And it was like every single time I was fighting, I was only lasting for a few seconds, but then my brain would output a list of all the things I could have done better. You know, did I do it wrong? Maybe I could have tried something different. Maybe the first thing that I should have done was totally different than anything I did. And so, you know, I start delving off into that. And I don't learn by watching other people's videos or listening to other people. I learn very little that way. Some things, like don't use void, I learned that from Judge Sarn, even though I didn't know why. You know, but you get going, and you get up and go, and you start learning things, and then you lose a bunch of ships. If you do it the way I did it, trial and error. And for me, it only took a couple of months. You can look on my Zico history at the stats, and you'll see back when I started, you know, very few ships killed. There was one month where I lost almost 700 ships.
Holy crap.
Feel free to calculate that it is a day. I was losing a lot of ships. You know, I was buying them hundreds at a time. I remember a night when I was first doing slicers. The whole slicer thing, man.
So that's mainly kiting, right?
I had a problem. I got to a stage in my education on solo PvP and low sec and Black Rise where I didn't understand why kitey ships died to brawly things, and I didn't understand how to get away from kitey stuff. I didn't understand, you know, people talk about this slingshot, but nobody ever actually tells you, here's how you do it. Nobody ever says, here is a really easy way that you can do this without having to think about it. Nobody ever says that. They don't give you like a thing that you can do to get away in almost every situation. But there is one. And, you know, I thought, well, the best way for me to do this is to be a little bitch, because I thought only little bitches flew slicers at the time, or kitey Tristan or Garmers or anything like that. I still think that.
I prefer the brawl. I do. I suck at kiting.
What are you even doing? It's ships. But yeah, I got into slicer, and I remember one night I had lost a bunch of slicers to this point. I was like, I'm gonna buy more slicers. I'm tired of running out of them, having to haul them back and forth to Jita. Let's just get a whole junk freighter full and bring them to Mirathan, right? Turned out to be somewhere around 200 and something, 220, 230, fully fit. You know, haul them unfit, fit them in the station.
Right. Yeah.
And so I had a whole jump freighter brought in. Everybody's like, you're gonna have slicers for the rest of your life, man. It'll last forever. And 4 months later, I was out again. So I bought another 150, and some of those are still in existence, but only because I absorbed all the knowledge from the slicer.
Yeah, you went out and got it blown up enough that you finally started to understand what the slicer is, what it can do, who it can go up against, why and where and how, and
People get away, how you catch them, how the whole gate sliding mechanic works when there's something kitey involved. You can start to learn things about signature radius while you're doing that, because not getting hit by things when you're 20k away is also important.
yep.
And so, the difference between orbiting and keeping away, those are two hugely different things that you're doing. If you catch a kiter, maybe you got a slicer that's got beams, right? He's not going to be orbiting. He's going to be doing keep away, most likely. Well, if he legitimately just clicks keep away from your ship, you can catch him every time, right? It's piece of cake. It's so easy. Anybody could do it. Whereas if they're orbiting, it's a whole different game. So, little things that you learn and you pick up through experience. Which would lead me to one complaint I want to make for new people coming into low set, coming into faction warfare. New people that come into it right now are at a little bit of a disadvantage and should not expect to learn as fast as we did, because there aren't the same number of combat opportunities out there for them. So they should be easy on themselves when they say, oh man, this guy said he did it in a few weeks. This guy said he did it in a few months. And they're 4 months in wondering why they're not at that level yet. Well, if you look at the raw numbers, you haven't had the same number of fights. If you're playing right now out there.
It
maybe
feels
you're
like...
in a situation where you do, but not if you're just a pirate out hunting.
Yeah, I feel like the only places that I get a solid amount of fights is really Tama at this point for the area that we live in. I mean, Notorious has some fights, but they're very few and far between. You got to kind of hunting for them all day long, kind of like that's how Gwen does say hello, by the way, and
cool.
that's Strength of Samson. So definitely. There's opportunities out there, but it feels like compared to, I remember when faction warfare first kicked off, it was like daily, like in militia, they would be shouting, we've got a 30-man fleet, we're taking it out, we're going and fighting. There's all these crazy things going off. Everybody's kind of figuring out what's going on and how to manipulate the mechanics. They didn't have just one ship that you needed to blow up in the beginning. They had like 100 ships that didn't stop the counter from counting down. And I remember having a interceptor that would just grab all the aggro, and you would just be kiting at like 30 kilometers, at the perfect thing, so you could just kite all of the crazy NPCs, and then you'd pull in a fleet to absorb up the LP and stuff like that. But I just remember there was a lot of activity, a lot of working together. The Galente had their own forums that they were, anybody that was in the Galente could join. And now it feels like just nobody really works together at this point. But there also is way less soloers out there as well, to accommodate that as well.
Less of everything.
Right.
Less of everything. The activity level is lower. And probably due to a lot of factors. Do I think it's going to improve? Absolutely. There's no reason to not believe it will improve. It always has when it's been like this before. And it's done it so many times. If this is the time that it doesn't improve, it would be a statistical anomaly, right?
I agree. Yeah, for sure. I feel like we have a lot to grow for Eve. There's still a lot to be done with Eve, and there is a lot of weird stuff kind of going on with Eve right now. But I think one of the big things that's needs to be taken into account is a lot of people are getting out and about right now, and there's a lot of legitimate complaints about Eve, but there's a lot of people that are just doing other things right now, and 0.0 is ground down to a complete halt at this point from my outsider's perspective. There's the war is basically gone to Goon's own one little constellation, and the rest of 0.0 is blue with each other. So without, a lot of activity coming from, them, there's still a lot that kind of resonates over into low sec, I feel like. And just as the game just kind of chills in a general feeling, that just kind of bleeds over into low sec, and it's much more of a chill environment that we have there. I'm still able to find fights, but they're much fewer and far between, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm still able to find fights too, especially if I create a situation where I'm giving other people lots of advantages. There's plenty of stuff to fight if you the more you even the playing field or push the playing field into someone else's benefit, the more fights you'll get. I am
Asarachi
glad to
says,
see Astarati and all that stuff those guys are doing around.
I've
It's amazing.
I'm really glad to have Astarashi back in faction warfare and going around and kind of, I love his videos, getting the like Galente like feeling of like, okay, let's get out there, do this for the Federation type kind of attitude is just it's really awesome to have back in faction warfare, and I really hope to see some more growth. And it's interesting because I used to run Mecha Enterprises fleet. I was the original founder and the original CEO of Mecha Enterprises fleet before they became Fed Up, and I always loved working with Asarashi and all those guys. That faction warfare back in the day was just so much fun before everything kind of, I don't know, went crazy. I don't know really what happened because I was kind of gone during that time period.
Yeah.
I like came back and it was like a wasteland. I was like, what happened here?
I killed everyone. I made them quit.
That's what Astarachi said, that that everybody's hiding from you at this point. So
I wish I could remember the names of the people involved. You know how the names of the people that you used to play all the time around 3 or 4 years ago just slip away. You would recognize them if you saw them, but
yep,
names are gone. So the names are gone for me. But I do remember that it all went down in Fliet about 3 or 4 years ago, and I was having a tough time. It was when I was getting a lot of fights. I was getting 20 or 30 kills a day, but I was losing twice as many ships.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I got 20 kills that day, here I was dying 50 times. So my feelings on the whole matter were kind of questionable. And I got in this situation over in Fliet. I was in my little breacher. I felt good about it. The breacher felt good about it. We were communicating well. And I got in a novice plex over there. I killed a comet with my breacher, a blaster comet, which, that's not really supposed to happen. And it was a good pilot. I think his name was Cervantes. Maybe he was around. He was a comet dude. He was a well-known comet dude. And I had lost so many breachers to him, but every time I was a little bit closer. And that time I got him. And then I repaired up in the novice and didn't leave the novice, and more people kept coming and kept coming and kept coming, and they would go back and get another ship and keep coming again. And I won 9 fights in a row without ever leaving the plex. And I felt like, at that moment, wow, I have really achieved a level of success in Eve. That particular thing going on, that was not something I ever thought would have ever happened, right?
Right, yeah.
So that was the first time for me that something like that had happened in Eve, and the energy I got from that, carried me on until the next thing happened. The next thing. A few weeks later, the next thing happened. And ever since then, it's always been the next thing. I don't know if you guys looked at my killboard today or if you heard about it, but
I did see that there
were made this morning.
I was about to ask about that. There does seem to be a little red on the killboard today.
I was trying to do some stuff. I was having a good conversation with the viewers on my stream, and we're a little bit distracted. Things were getting a little out of hand. I went over to the medium plex in Kadama, and there was an Incursus and a Merlin sitting in it. And the Incursus and the Merlin, this was in a medium. I don't usually go into a medium, period, right? So I wasn't really even thinking about it as a fight. It was just the way that it all went down. Hey, look, you could see me for a second. See how my camera lit up? What's up with that?
It's yeah, every once in a while it seems to just
Yeah. Maybe it's a setting. So you see the Atron, the Incursus in there, and I'm sitting outside as I do, cloaked up, and I see the Hecate go in. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. It's gonna have what, baby? Is it really important enough to interrupt my interview right now, or can it wait?
Sorry.
It can wait? No? Okay, what is it? Come here. Talk to me where I can hear you.
Whenever I play Roblox, I have my real life friends on there, and
Yeah?
and they keep spelling my name wrong. They keep doing it Lila, so
Those assholes.
just want to.
You want to change your name from Lila? What do you want your name to be?
Oh,
How about Mark? That's a good name.
oh.
What about Futter? You want to be called Futter?
That's unbelievable.
Go by your middle name. That was really important. Go play. What a
Names are important, man.
They are important. They always mess with her about her name. They call her Leela. It's Lyla. How hard is that? Yeah, she used to fix it up. So anyway, what's up doing? They went in, and the two frigates flew off. They bailed, and so that made me think that the likelihood of that being a bait situation was almost zero, right?
Yeah.
Just because of that going down, thought there's probably not something sitting in there lying in wait. And so I thought, well, I'm pretty good at killing Hecates, and I am. That doesn't mean a Hecate can't kill me. Anytime you're dealing with something that has more than 500 DPS, it's risky business, right?
Yeah.
And it's also risky business if I run into one that has a cap booster and dual reps, because I would never kill it. But I could run away from it, right? So yeah, I worked in there. Immediately I saw how he was fit. Was it killable? Yes. But there were a couple things working against me. One, I'm used to fighting those in my blingy Astero. And in my blingy Astero, I can orbit at 10 or 11 and still hold point and still be, my point on that ship is 15K. So I could sit around 10 or 11 all day long. And with my Abyssal Newt, I could still newt them for 50, 60 gigajoules while I'm out that far.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, so in the non-blingy one, okay, baby, like the one I was flying this morning, you're only gonna newt 50K, you gotta be around 6,500, maybe 7. And then the point only goes out to 9, 10 heated.
Yep.
So you've got to be close, which was too close when the Hecate loads null. And that's when the mistake started to be made. I repped a little late, just a little, not a lot. And then he was getting strike through. And I thought that I would newt him before I died. And I was wrong. But I could have escaped, and I chose not to because I thought, well, the ship's not worth that much. I don't care about the ship. I'd rather get the kill or risk getting the kill. But I did not ever want to lose my pod, ever at any point. I wish I could show you the video to show you what happened, but there's a specific way that I warp out that it always works for me, except once every 3 years. Okay,
Oh, no.
So if you guys want to say once every 3 years isn't always, that's fine. That's my track record so far. Once every 3 years, I get my head blown up because I fuck it up. And I clicked the wrong thing, and then I clicked the wrong thing again, and then I was like, okay, well, that's the end of the head. The guy locked me up, and then I just started talking to my stream instead of continuing to pay attention, and I sat there for a few seconds unpointed. I could have walked away any time.
And that happens in LoSec. It's interesting because not everybody wants to
Right.
blow up pods, and usually if a pod's just sitting there, oh, it's got nothing in it.
That's what he thought. He thought it was empty. It was a billionist pod. I wanted it out of there. I would have liked to have used it again. I'm gonna replace it.
Right.
So yeah, that was kind of a bad ordeal, but not as bad of an ordeal as losing a 8 billion Escastero. Thankfully, that one was only a 200 million Escastero.
Right. Yep.
But I also think if I would have been in my other one, the extra 4 or 5% resist combined with all of the other superpowers that it has, I think I would have defeated the Hecate this morning.
Yeah, it is.
I didn't
that
learn a lot.
that little extra bit is, so important in those really
Yes.
close fights.
It is, man. It absolutely is. It's pretty amazing for an Astero to ever kill a Hecate, so the fact that I've ever been able to do it is pretty cool. I just want to continue to prove that I can still do it, but sometimes I'm going to lose ships if I continue to try, because that's definitely not a guaranteed win.
So when you're trying to stack all the odds in your favor, what take us kind of through a little bit of a breakdown. Do you use so you've got implants? Do you use drugs? And you talked about a little bit about abyssal kind of mods. You can give us like a little bit of a breakdown of kind of what do you try to do in order to stack everything in your favor?
Where does it start? It starts with the skill points. Okay, so if I'm in a ship that I'm really serious about, then I want to get laser focused on it. There's a few things that I need to do to stack the odds in my favor. One is I need to make sure that I've maxed out the usable skills for that ship. That doesn't mean go into your list of ships and seeing the gold 5 on there.
Mm-hmm. Right, because not everything is used per se.
Yeah, that's very unimportant. But I want to make sure that I'm as proficient as possible for the modules that I have on the hull that I'm in. And then if I've got deficiencies, I know what those deficiencies are so that I can mitigate the effect of those deficiencies while I train. So be aware of them. Make sure you're not doing something silly, like having some skill at 1 that could easily be at 3 in just a few hours, something like that, and then work toward maxing those out. And then I want to understand why the hull wins and why the hull loses. Why is the fit that I'm in going to win and why is it going to lose? Which in the case of the Astero, why does it win? Because you can engage someone in a capacitor war, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can engage them in a capacitor war and you can win the capacitor war, which is how you beat the game of Eve. And then the other thing is it really good at mitigating damage because it has the superior resist profile, which turns it into a brick. I'm sure all you guys have been in the situation where you fight the Astero, his shields disappear, and then you start hitting his armor, and you're just like, what the hell is even going on right now? This doesn't even make sense. I can't even make the armor go down. Right, we've all been there. And it's just a sinking feeling. When you get into that situation and then the newt hits you, it's just like, that there's nothing you can do and you're screwed. So we want to understand that stuff, and then we want to look at boosters. When I'm doing the Astero, you want to boost within a situation that you can afford to maintain. So I use improved exile. Some people might not. Some people might use strong exile. Is it better? Well, of course it's better. It's also much more expensive. Mm-hmm. So I use improved. You might use standard. When I started out, I didn't use that. I used synth, right? I used synth exile
just got boosted quite a bit,
right? And it has no negative side effect. And then there's the pharmacon drugs that you can use. So it depends on how you're hunting. For me, I'm hunting around my home bases, and that means I can go take more drugs anytime. Which also means if I'm willing to pay for it, I can always have a perfect drug roll. Right?
Okay, yep.
Because you can reclone on a citadel as many times as you want. Jump in and out of your head, until you have the drug roll that you want. So I would run Improved Exile and Hard Shell 2 for financial reasons.
Have you seen the new Liberation Day event boosters? I haven't either. I'm wondering what those are. Hopefully they're good.
I am too. Link it, Ashtarothi, so I can look at it after the thing. I mean, if that's okay with you. So that, with the boosters, I do that. I don't haul them with me. If I was hunting a different way, let's say maybe I was floating back and forth between a lot of different large areas, I would instead move toward taking aioli pharmacon drugs with me, which I could take on the fly, more expensive, but I could take on the fly right before my fight
Mm-hmm.
and not get a negative side effect. So don't have to worry about carrying drugs around when you're always within 5 or 6 jumps of a staging location.
Yep.
People that stage out of one location, they're limited to a certain number of systems. When you have 5 staging systems around Black Rise, you can go anywhere you want and be, within minutes of your drugs.
I hope for someday to be able to set myself up all throughout Black Rise. I'm barely able to maintain my Tama and Notorious cache right now. It's
I've never been able to maintain my Tama cache. Like, if I decide I'm going to fight for a while in Tama, I run out of ships really quickly.
So God, it's like, wait a minute, I thought I had
think
ships
it's all
here.
of us. Yeah. I always staged out of Sujirento. Personal preference. Back when I started that out, you had to deal with the NPC station in Tama, and you might remember, what was that dude's name? Ice somebody or another? Was it Ice Garfield that was always there in the Gnosis on the Tama NPC?
Yep.
I assume that he's still there, and therefore I just don't go into the NPC ever again. So I moved to Sujirento where it was safer.
So
After the 30th ship I lost to that guy, right?
So apparently it's 10% bonus to projectile weapon tracking speed, missile velocity, explosion velocity for 2 hours. 10% bonus to stasis webifier range, target painter range, and target painter strength for 2 hours. And 10% projectile weapon optimal range and fall off, as well as missile velocity, base duration 2 hours.
So no drone damage boost.
No drone damage boost.
Really quickly, let's finish up on the last point.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to talk about the implants just really quickly because they're critically important. You don't ever have to run drugs. You don't ever have to run implants. But if you're flying a ship around that's several hundred mil, you should definitely think about drugs. If you're flying a ship around that's many billions of ISK in low-sec and Black Rise, and you're not using a head, you're just being stupid, right?
Yep.
Because a set of mid-grade Ascaplanes, if you look at the head I lost, those mechanics weren't worth 10 million ISK that I had in there. I just was like, just give me the base Ascaplane's head. It's like 900 million ISK if you want to go buy it now in Jita. Cheaper if you do buy orders. And, you just run it all the time. Yes, I lost it, but I got, 200, 350, 400, 450 kills out of that head.
Oh, that's not bad. Yep. And I mean, in low sec, because you're not having bubbles, the likelihood of getting caught, like you said, is pretty low. Once every 3 years. And my main problem that I've had with losing my pods in low sec is that I'm so used to having nothing in my head that as soon as I put something in my head, I'll be like, okay, I got blown up. All right, I'm just going to wait for them to pod me. And I'll even do my own self-destruct all the time because a lot of times they won't blow me up. So I'm just like, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. Do I have a billion ISK in my head? Oh, crap.
I self-destructed a high-grade slave set in Tama back in the day to pod myself home to get another Kestrel. I know you guys think that might sound stupid with the high-grade slaves and the Kestrel, but trust me, it's totally viable. You can get 14,800 EHP out of a Kestrel that way, and nobody knows what hit them.
Oh, interesting. So it kind of changes it up. They're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Your shields are down.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
And they hit that armor. It's extremely viable. I've got a lot of kills that way, and it's very sneaky. Who expects it? So yeah, I did. I lost the set self-destruction because in my brain it was like every other time. Die, go get a new ship. Die, go get a new ship. So,
yep.
Thankfully, nobody clipped it.
Yeah, because it's self-destruct, so it didn't get on the kill board, right?
Right.
Nice.
Exactly. It didn't end up on there. So unless I tell y'all about it, nobody knows.
Yeah, I have yet to been able to pull that off. I definitely have sat just around with Billy in his in my head and just been like, yeah, go ahead, pod me. I just want to get home quicker.
So painful. I did that to Insidious Sainthood one night. Was like pod me home. I podded him home, and he had a 5.4 billion SCAD in.
Oh,
He didn't realize it. He just didn't realize it. I didn't realize it. I wouldn't have purposefully potted his head like that in that situation, but.
we recently
And by the way,
oh, go ahead.
don't let them think that's any leniency for the rest of you. I will pod your ass. So. Yeah, don't set any expectations here.
I am all about potting. I don't care about my sex status anymore. I'm like, okay, I've got my alt. He does all my transporting and stuff. I'm just never going back to high sec with Frozen at this point. Not without having police chase me everywhere. That's just the way that it is.
Logistics, one of the biggest barriers for new players to PvP. Logistics is the huge issue. And then, they go to Tama, they lose in Tama, they clone back to Jita, and then they go through the Norvikaiken gate and they start getting used to that. It's just a vicious little spiral.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather see them get hooked up with someone like Asherathi's group or anybody's group that can help them with the, here's how you live here. Here's the logistics of it. It's very easy. Here's how you can live here, make it all work and not have to run back and forth and never have to go from Tama to Norvikaiken or from Norvikaiken to Tama.
Yep. Yeah, my one of my court mates just got a jump freighter, so we're hopefully going to be able to stock Taurus to the brim with a bunch of stuff. We've just been using DTS or DSTs and stuff like that, but it's so small comparatively to what you really want to have when you're shipping in, hundreds of ships and all the fittings that you want to have for the.
Y'all are doing it yourself. Yeah, I can tell y'all with 100% confidence, for 3 years now, almost all of my stuff has come in on pub contracts. My jump freighters have almost all been through the haulers channel. And I haven't lost a single contract through the haulers channel, not in one time.
And from my understanding, the haulers don't mind Tama comparatively to a lot of other destination locations. It's not the safest, but it's not actually that dangerous. It's interesting because I feel like Shadow Cartel keeps the Norvikaiken gate kind of clean a little bit because they're not really big into gate camping and they're big into knocking gate camps down. And I've noticed that it feels, at least at these days, it feels like Norvikaiken gate is much more likely to not be camped than camped these days.
I've been keeping an eye on it, and that could very well be the case. But I attribute it to what we were talking about earlier, where there's just less of everything right now. Because I feel like if there was more activity, you would have another group that would assume the role of camping that gate because it's the best gate in Eve to camp.
It is great camping gate. Especially when it's been slowing down. Like I feel like now is like the time to actually set up a solid camp there.
We'll do it, man. People want to go through there. They just can't handle going around, man.
We've been doing our Wednesday fleets, and we've been sitting in Kadama on the Tama gate, just one jump back.
That's a dangerous spot for people to camp.
It is.
And I had to talk to Gwen because I love Notoras, but I could never live there, and I really don't even like hanging out there because there's only one way in and out. And really, the only situation that I get comfortable with an expensive ship going in and out of there is if I have my scouts around that I can look before I go in, because it would be very easy for somebody to notice that I was in my expensive Astero and just camp me into that system, And then I would be looking for a wormhole to exit with or just doing something else until they got bored. It takes some people a long time to get bored, like years.
Yep. No, and that's Gwen does a lot of the camping on the other side of the gate. But But yeah, it's an interesting system because of that. I like it because of that, because that makes it like, the one thing is that in low sec it's hard to actually stop me from getting in and out of a system, though. I mean, especially if you've got a cloaking device, you know, as long as, you know, you come in at an angle, you're not going to be able to get smart bombed. You're not going to get caught by a bomb. And the only thing that I'm terrified of is when I see like a Garmer or some other insanely fast ship sitting with like a Gnosis or something else, that I'm like, oh no, okay, so these guys know how to they know how to bump into cloaky stuff and just stop it from going anywhere.
Share a moment of truth, a bit of truth with you guys. I'll tell you guys what really makes my nuts go up in my stomach when I'm jumping into somewhere and I see something sitting on a gate, and that's when I see a carries there. If I see a carries there, knowing that carries can get over 4,000 scan resolution and a 50k point without even trying, that's the thing that worries me, only because so many times, you know, if I click the button and been locked and dead before the warp drive active sound even got started, right? Like, it's just so damn fast. I know that there are plenty of other ships that can do it. Yeah. But that's the one that gets me. When I see that, I get nervous.
Yeah, that is a great gate camping ship. The only thing you have to be, you know, careful on is that it can get easily blown up by gate guns. But
yeah,
if you have the proper setup, logistics already, healing it doesn't really matter at that point.
And if you're shooting at me, it also doesn't matter. So.
Oh yes, yeah. No, you're in the same club as me, where it's like, oh, gate guns doesn't change anything in this combat.
You know what? When I had my security status up, it still didn't really change anything.
Not for a gate camp.
People that were going to get you are still going to get you, right?
Yeah. The
carries, you know, I'm probably so edgy about that one because the Revolution Gate Camp used to really make use of that. One of those guys had a hard-on for it. I don't see them much anymore because I started just avoiding that whole Hades situation like the plague. I really did. Yeah.
I used to live in Hades back in the day, so
me too. Yeah,
I had a lot of fun back when Faction Warfare when Black Rides first came into existence. Hades was a really good staging point for a lot of us.
It was the Revolution thing. The problem is not their gate camp. The problem is the intelligence that they have surrounding the gate camp. Because if you probably are aware of who their scouts are, and if you are, you know, you'll see their scouts 3 or 4 systems out in every direction from Hades. So that's a lot of time that they have to reship and prepare. And a lot of stuff goes on, you know, like Tahoma will get in his Proteus so that they can get your pod. You know, you get the pod away from the gate camp, Tahoma will beat you to wherever it is that you warp to, if you don't warp to a safe. Which brings us to one thing. Remember earlier I said I had a system for warping my pod away? And that I liked it and people would bitch at me? It's for exactly people like him. Because if you warp to a Celestial, he will follow you to the Celestial and blow you up, right?
Yep.
If you warp to your own safe, he can't.
Yep.
So, you know, it's just a part of what is going to make you lose more pods. Doing it the way that I do it, or people like Tahoma Sakura, or even, it's not coming to me. What's his name? Yeah, the guy that sits in Kadama all the time in the Proteus with the officer smart bombs. Ixona.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Yeah, Ixona. So,
Crazy. Yeah, it's I hate smart bombs. That's the one thing that just I've lost so many frigates and good pods to as well, because it's like, oh, my frigate's gone, oh, my pod is gone, and shit, that had stuff in it. It's
comforting to know that my Astero will not die to a Proteus with Officer Smart Bomb. It's been thoroughly tested. But it will die to 3 materials with Smart Bombs.
Yeah, it's not a lot besides cruiser and up is really gonna be able to survive that.
Yeah, so generally you know who's in the system or you don't work gate to gate.
Yeah, yep. So we are coming on up on an hour here. I was wondering though if there's anything that you kind of want to go over, anything that you want to talk about, any projects that you have currently going. Kind of just open up the time for you to talk about whatever you'd like.
I do have a project going on. It's actually part of why I'm losing so many ships is what it is that I'm trying to do. I'm going to put another upgrade on my primary Astero. I'm trying to purchase the correct newt for it, or make the correct newt for it. I want to be able to newt over 70 gigajoules. That's my goal. Right now, it newts 62. I've had newts that newted 69 or 68, and I really want to go over 70 because it opens up. It's going to open up a whole nother area of ships that I can reliably destroy, such as the Hecate. And so I've been messing with stuff, which the main thing I've been messing with is how I approach those fights. And I did almost everything right in that fight this morning. So even though I lost all that stuff, I felt really good about it. The outcome of it, knowledge-wise, how do I approach that fight, the decision-making process going into the fight. I feel like I did good. I just made a few dexterity mistakes. There were dexterity issues with my hands. So a few human-computer interface issues. So I'm working on going back into that ship and going for the 350 mark. So taking that 350 mark, I think it's at 129 right now. Actually, no, I'm not with it. I thought I was in the same. I'm in Fleet. Yeah. So 129, but to do that, I'm going to have to spend a lot of time in the other war zone. So right now, the past few weeks, I've had all of my scouts move to the other war zone, which is the reason that I've not been in my primary ship, that I've been in these T1 frigates and cheapest arrows and things like that. If I don't have my scouts up, I can't move an 8 billionist ship around.
Right. Yep.
Mm-hmm. I need to know some things in some places. So I'm set up over there. So I think if I go over the other war zone, I feel like I can get 50 to 100 kill marks quickly before everybody figures out what I'm doing, how I'm
coming a little fresh,
Right. Come in hot, get a quick 50 kill marks, 100 kill marks. And then I think if I can get into a situation where I can monitor both war zones at the same time, I can float back and forth between those two and double my kill rate. That's what I'm hoping for. So when I say float, I mean one night here, one night there, or a half a night here, finish the night in the other war zone. You would be surprised how many people in the other war zone that don't even know who I am, because I just haven't been over there killing them their entire career.
No, it's right? Interesting how localized Eve can be. It's the idea that if you're not doing stuff in my area, I might not know anything about you, even though you're an epic PvPer in your area of space. There are exceptions, of course. There are people that are known throughout the entire galaxy. But especially when I feel like when it comes to low-sec PvP, it's all about learning your locals. Like, just who are the people that constantly are PvPing in this area, and what are they doing, and who are they? And then you make friends with them, and you know who they are, or you make enemies with them, but you still know who they are.
I can't think of a single person in all of EVE Online that I feel like is a personal enemy to me. I don't have beef, I have in-game beef, but I don't have beef with anybody.
Right, yeah. Eve
I know that I
is
got
a
some
great
haters
shoot
out
me to
there,
make
but
friends game.
Yeah. not reciprocal. They might hate me, but I don't hate them.
There's yeah exactly. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who hate me, but I don't hate any of you. You all just make the game fun. So
That's the reason that they hate you, man. They hate you because they've got all these emotions for you, and you don't even care about who they are. And it fuels their hate. That's what it is.
absolutely.
I know you got to finish it up, man. I could sit here and talk about this good times for hours.
But yeah, we will definitely want to get you back onto the show again, just because it's always fun just hearing all the different stories that you have, and we're going to be trying to continue doing continuous, talk show with the Age of Stories moving forward. We're kind of moving away from Crossing Darkness. We're keeping that as our World of Darkness, all like what it originally was built on, because it seems really weird when I go to the Lords of the Trident, which is one of the people that we're having coming on, heavy metal rock band, to be like, can you come on to the Crossing Darkness podcast? And they're like, what does that mean? So we're like, we need a new name.
Yeah, it's a good idea, man. I think that especially the Eve interviews, I've really enjoyed them. You're doing a great job. You should keep doing it, and I'll be happy to come back and give you guys what I got anytime. Which I don't place a very high value on my own personal stories because I'm not a very good storyteller, but I guess there are things that have gone on, and I'll try to prepare a couple of the really good stories for next time.
Yeah.
Really
what you should do too is
the
250 kill. When you get to that, we should have you come back on, and we can kind of go over some of that.
I predict by the end of the winter, I'll be there. I may lose the ship that I'm currently trying to do it with, but I think by the end of the winter, with the winter activity picking up and the faction warfare picking up that Athroshi's doing, I'm pretty sure I can farm the hell out of these noobs he's creating.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you all for watching, and we will be back. We will be doing this every Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time. Different stories from different people. We're hopefully going to be having, I believe, Lords of Trident is possibly going to be our next guest that we're going to be having coming on. We'll get that all solidified and let you know. But thank you all, and have a great night.
7.